Hello and welcome to Retfurb. On this video we look at the Sega Master System 2. We will disassemble, change the capacitors and then reassemble. Let's get to the video. Here's the Sega Master System 2 that we are working on today. Firstly, we need to turn it over, take out the 5 securing screws to remove the lid. So that's all of the screws removed from the bottom. You can now turn it back over, remove the lid. The best thing to do, which I normally do, is just put those screws back in top, just so you know next time when you go and put it back together, that's the screws that secure the lid back on. Now there's 6 screws that hold on the shield, which is above the circuit board inside the console. These need to be removed and then the shield can be lifted off. You also need to remove the 2 black screws that are either side of the cartridge input port. These need to be removed and then the circuit board can be lifted. So now we need to work out which capacitor we're going to remove, find the location on the circuit board, turn it over, find the corresponding part on the back of the board, and then heat the solder and remove it with a tool. Now I had quite a few parts on this board which are a bit of a pain to try and get out the solder, so you will see me sort of fast forwarding quite a bit when I get to certain areas and trying to mess around with it to try and get it out. I'm by no means a professional at soldering, you know, I've done quite a bit of solder work, but like I say, I'm sure I'll get people commenting about how bad it looks when I'm doing it, but I've been doing it for a while now and I've never had any issues as yet. So that's the first capacitor removed. On the board where you've removed the capacitor, you'll notice there's a plus symbol. This is to show which way round the capacitor's got to go. So the capacitor long leg is the plus and the short leg is the minus. The solder that I'm using for this is flux cord. So I'm applying just enough solder to the area to fix it to the board and give a good connection. Now I use some side cutters just to snip off the legs from underneath the board. And that's it, that's the first capacitor done. Now on to the next one. So again with this one, just following the similar principles we did on the first capacitor. Like I said previously, some you'll find that come out easily when you use the tool. Other times it might be a bit of a pain. I used to always use just the desoldering wire, and it was only recently that I bought this sucker from Amazon, which is really good actually. It's saved a lot of time just doing projects like this, so definitely worth a buy. So you can see here a bit of a closer look at the area whilst I'm soldering, just to give a better idea of what's actually going on. This is one of the capacitors where the sucker wasn't quite removing the solder like it would on a lot of them. So I just applied a little bit of solder on the area, which sometimes when you put a bit more on there it helps it coming out. But in this case it didn't really help. So on this particular capacitor, one of the holes where the legs go through wasn't quite desoldered enough, so one of them was okay, so I pushed that one in, and then I rested the leg against the other side on the other hole, and then applied a bit of heat underneath, which allowed it to go through. Now I'm not saying this is the right way of doing it, but as long as you just rest the leg against the hole and don't apply any force, it will be fine. So I'm just working my way through, replacing each capacitor, just making sure that they're all fitted the correct way round, making sure that the rating on the new capacitor matches the old one being removed. The majority of the capacitors that I'm fitting are Panasonic branded. I tried not to fit any sort of cheap branded ones due to any potential failures that could occur. I've got to keep remembering to clear the solder sucker. If you don't do it, you get bits hanging at the end, and then when you go to use it, you can't use it properly because there's bits in the way. You'll see me quite often trying to clear the end of it. Again, this is a point where the solder wasn't quite removed enough before fitting the new capacitor. For some reason at this point, my soldering iron that I have been using on this is decided not to sort of work as well. I don't know why, whether the tip's dirty or something like that, I don't know. I have got a wireless Milwaukee soldering iron as well that I use, which I will be using shortly, you'll see it shortly. And then that started working better. I'm not entirely sure why this one was playing up on a couple of it. It might have just been the solder joints. So it's a couple of these that seem to take me a bit longer than usual. Even resorting to the desolder wire to see if that will help. So now I've moved over to using the Milwaukee soldering iron just to see if I can get on with that a bit better. This is actually the second Milwaukee wireless soldering iron that I've owned, purely because the first one had to go back under warranty. They've got a problem where the end heated element ends up coming out of the plastic part. Mine happened pretty much after about the second time I used it. So if you do purchase one of these, just make sure it's got the revision done on the end. This capacitor took a little bit more to do because it had some hot glue that had been put on the area, so I had to try and sort of pick it away as much as I could before I heated up the solder. Wasn't too bad, got rid of it in the end. So on this area I decided to do two at the same time, purely because they were the same rating. So I just thought I'd just take it out and just do them both together. Now there was another capacitor which is next to this in the same area. I think I do it after these two, which I didn't realise that it hasn't got any markings on the circuit to say whether it's plus or minus. So I had to sort of stop what I was doing and have a quick look and work out which way it goes. So yeah, I did find out in the end. Now I'm just checking over the wire just to make sure I didn't catch it with a soldering iron. I was trying to be as careful as I can around the area, and as it happened I didn't touch it, so it was fine. These two capacitors are also the same rating, so I decided to take them out and just do them together. And that's it, that's the last two capacitors done. So now I'm just going to flip the board over, have a quick look to make sure I haven't sort of bent anything over which shouldn't be bent over, and then we can go to fitting it back up. So now it's time to reinstall the circuit board. Basically just a reversal of what we did when we took it all apart. Just need to make sure that when you lower the circuit board in, there's a little tab on one side, it sort of hooks underneath. I forgot this numerous times. The same when you put the shield back on top, that sort of hooks in one side first of all and then screws down. Now to put the two black screws either side of the cartridge input slot. As you can see, I just did exactly what I said not to do. You just need to make sure that you hook that shield underneath the tab when you're putting it back on above the circuit board. So I'm showing this screw close up just so you can see that it's got a thread on it, which is slightly different than the rest of them. So this one goes in the area as shown in the video. Now I'm just continuing to put the screws in around the circuit board shield. Time to get the lid back on. Just make sure when you're putting it back on that you line up the power button and just make sure that it sort of sits around nicely around the edges. That's it, all done, all back together. Now it's time to test it out. So the video that I'm using currently just to record Alex the Kid and then Sonic afterwards, I've had to do it by basically putting the camera on a stand just in front of the TV just to take a recording. I'm in the process of just sorting out a different way of capturing it, so hopefully by the time I do the next video that'll be sorted. Time to put the console back in the box. This is pretty much complete. It's got the two controllers inside, it's got the original TV cable, the original power supply, original manuals. I think a couple of bits of packaging in it and probably not original, but they're all in there just to keep it protected. This is part of my own collection. I've got most of the Sega consoles, most of the main Sega consoles that came to the UK. There's still a few that I haven't got. The I think it's Multi-Mega, haven't got that one. I haven't got the Nomad, but I've got the Sega CD, both 1 and 2, Master System 1, Sega Mega Drive 2, Sega Mega Drive 1, Sega Saturn, Dreamcast. So yeah, I've got most of them. And I will be doing other videos showing different things on those. I've already replaced the capacitors in a couple of models already, which I didn't get a video on, but I will be showing just so you can see the disassemble process and then refitting. While we just watch the process of putting it back into the box, I just wanted to go through some of the things that we're going to do on the channel. It's going to be mainly retro, vintage, anything collectible, and in the process of looking at these there'll be quite a few different refurbs. Anything from old cake mixers, which I've done quite a few of now. I've got one that actually needs to be done, so that video will be on here, and that's an old Kenwood chef. Old retro mountain bikes, consoles, old stereos, separates. I own quite a few different Sony systems which are from sort of 70s and 80s, so I'm going to be looking at doing the capacitors on those at some point. And yeah, anything sort of this interesting. I'm a big Mercedes-Benz collector, like memorabilia, anything that's a bit different, so I'll be looking at some of that. So if this sounds like something you might be interested in, then please feel free to subscribe to the channel. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more videos like this to come soon. I'm planning to get them out weekly, or at least once a week, hopefully more than that. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.